Okay guys, so welcome back. Now, like always, make sure you do your ritual, get yourself in the right state, and let's go. There is an incredible woman named Sri. Sri is a linguist, and she wants to study Swahili. What is her name? What is Sri? What kind of woman is Sri? What does she want? What is a linguist? A linguist is a person who studies languages. So, what is a linguist? What does Sri study? Is Sri a truck driver? Who is a linguist? How many languages does Sri speak? 3? 6? She speaks 247 languages. How many languages does she speak? In fact, she has total mastery in 247 languages. Wow! Does she have total mastery, or is she pretty good? So what kind of linguist is Sri? But she needs another language. She wants to learn Swahili. What does she want? And where do people speak Swahili? Africa. In Africa, of course. People speak Swahili in Africa. Again, where do people speak Swahili? Does Sri want to speak Swahili, or does she want to speak Japanese? She wants to speak 248 languages perfectly. What does she want? How many languages does she want to speak perfectly? What is Sri? How does she want to speak languages? So she wants to learn Swahili. First, she tries a visual method. What method does she try first? Does she try to learn with her eyes or with her ears? Visual means with the eyes, connected to the eyes, related to seeing, visual. Visual. She tries a visual method first. What kind of method does she try to learn Swahili with? What does visual mean? She reads textbooks and grammar rules. Does she listen to them, or does she read them? What language is she studying? How does she learn? Does she read textbooks and grammar rules? She studies Swahili with a visual method for 2 years. Every day she reads textbooks. Every day she reads grammar books. And after 2 years, what happened? Nothing. Sri is frustrated. She still cannot speak Swahili. Is the visual method successful for Sri? For how long does she study with the visual method? What does she do every day? Which language does she study for 2 years? Who studies Swahili with a visual method for 2 years? Is she successful after 2 years? Is she happy? How is she? So, she modifies her approach. Does she change her approach? Or does she keep the same approach? What does she modify? She modifies her approach to what? What kind of approach does she try next? Is it a visual method again? It is a kinesthetic approach. A kinesthetic method. Ooh, a new word, kinesthetic. Kinesthetic means related to movement and the body. So, related to movement, feelings, physical feelings in the body. She learns Swahili with her body, with movements, and with feelings in her body. Sounds interesting. What kind of method does she try next? What does kinesthetic mean? Who tries a kinesthetic method? She tries a kinesthetic method for what? Does she try to learn with her body or with her ears? How does she learn Swahili? Well, it's called TPR, and she has to jump and move while learning. The teacher says jump, in Swahili of course, and Sri will jump. The teacher says sit in Swahili, and Sri will sit. She does this every day. Every day she jumps and sits and moves and walks and writes and reads as the teacher tells her to in Swahili. It is a kinesthetic method, right? She has to move her body. She is learning with movement. Kinesthetic. What does she do every day? Does this boost her learning? Oh yes, it does. It boosts her learning. It raises her learning. It increases her learning. She begins to learn Swahili. She begins to understand Swahili. She begins to speak Swahili. Does the kinesthetic method lessen or boost her learning? What boosts Sri's learning of Swahili? Does it boost her learning a little or a lot? Does she begin to understand and speak Swahili? She begins to learn much, much faster. Which is faster, the visual method or the kinesthetic method? What does it boost? Of what? What boosts her learning speed of Swahili? So, she uses the kinesthetic method for 1 year. It boosts her learning. She learns faster and faster and better. But she does not achieve mastery. She does not become a master of Swahili. She's good, but not a master. For how long does she use the kinesthetic method? Does she learn faster and better? Does Sri become a master of Swahili by using the kinesthetic method? And so, she modifies her approach again. Does she change her approach again a little bit? What does she modify? What does she do next? Well, she adds something this time. She continues to learn with the kinesthetic method, but she adds something more. She adds an auditory method. Auditory, another new word, auditory. Auditory means related to hearing or listening, related to the ears. It shares the same root as audio, right? Audio means sound. Auditory means related to sound, related to listening, related to hearing. Auditory. So, a listening method is what she changes to or adds. She adds a listening method. What kind of method does she add? What does auditory mean? Who adds an auditory method? Why does she add an auditory method? Which language does she want to totally master? So, what does she add to her learning method? What does she add an auditory approach to? What does she add it to? Does she subtract an auditory method? And does she add a visual method? So what does she add? She begins to listen to Swahili every day, listening more and more. Every day listening to Swahili. Tons of listening. First 3 hours, then 4 hours, then 10 hours, then 23.5 hours a day. How many hours does she listen to Swahili every day? How many hours does she sleep every day? Is she successful? Sri becomes a total master of Swahili in only 1 year. After listening to Swahili 23.5 hours a day for 1 year, Sri becomes a total master of Swahili. She now speaks 248 languages perfectly. Sri is the best linguist in the world. What does she become? How many languages does she speak perfectly now? Is Sri the best linguist in the world? Okay guys, so that does it for the test. I hope you did well, and if not, follow Sri's example. Try a little bit of extra repetition. Because after all, practice makes better. See you next time, guys.